Hey guys, Kevin Cage back with another cryptocurrency update. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe if you're serious about the digital asset space, and let's get right into it today, one take and uncut. So if you have seen some of this information already, I still wanted to get this video out. Be sure to tune into the last few minutes of the video where I do an important kind of rant on certain topics, a few, points of concern for people in the XRP community. So without further ado, guys, be sure to like and sub, and let's get into it. So as we know, as of today, May 8th, 2020, Arturo Portilla shares the important news again in terms of the reserve amount for XRP in the XRPL. So after maintaining an 80% consensus during the mandatory 15-day voting period, the XRP Ledger Deletable Accounts Amendment finally became enabled, right? And again, this is through the Ledger. We can see these screenshots right here. And for example, we have the link, again, transaction summary, enable amendment, and the outcome was a success. Keep in mind, now, you know how I typically just say, I ballpark it and say over 50 million ledgers have been successfully closed? Look at this, over 55 million. People often question, are there any other blockchains, any other DLT networks, especially such as the XRP Ledger, that have ever had a single, or that have never had an error? XRP is one of the few networks that have never had a single error within its ledger, no issues of double spending, etc. This is something that is prime for adoption. I'm not saying it's going to be, the global currency. What I'm saying is it really, basically, in my opinion, not financial advice, has one of the best chances of being that type of global, universal bridge asset. All right. We're talking, 7 years strong at least, and it is, proving itself day in, day out. So let's talk about basically this 20 reserve currency and what this, potentially means. There's good and bad news with this, depending on, how you want to see it. So Michael Val5 Links was actually sharing this. This is XRParcade.com again, talking about this really great article shared by Leonidas. So basically, just to breeze through this so we can talk about additional information. Again, the XRP Ledger, open source tech, anyone can use it. Awesome, permissionless. Of course, people can build upon it, connect their own permission blockchains. Banks can still maintain privacy and have their own, walled gardens that connect to the XRPL as well. All good and great. It follows a specific set of rules. Does not mean it does not evolve. Again, ongoing, guys. It can adapt to the financial changes of the markets. Any changes and upgrades to the XRP Ledger go through the amendment process again in terms of voting. So the amendment system provides a means of introducing new features to the decentralized XRP Ledger network without causing disruptions. The amendment system works by utilizing the core consensus process of the network to approve any changes by showing continuous support before those changes go into effect. An amendment requires 80% support from the UNL, again, unique node list validators for 2 weeks before it can apply. The 20 XRP reserve, a lot of people were, kind of worried. Here, let me read this first, and then I'll kind of go over that. So one of the features of the XRP Ledger is the reserve. As explained at the XRP Ledger development portal, the dev portal, developer, whatever you want to say, again, it talks about the reserve supply. For every single XRP account, it requires a reserve requirement of 20 XRP. Now, formally it did. Again, this can always change thanks to voting. And this is the cost of an address that owns no other objects in the ledger. Each new account must set aside this much XRP, which cannot be recovered or sent to others until it's changed, of course, which just happened today, which is awesome. So now you can get your XRP back as well. So say, you had 1,000 XRP, it mooned to whatever price point you consider moon, and you wanted the withdrawal. Formerly, that account, whatever the exchange that held the private keys, or if you, held your own account, that 20 XRP would be locked up. Now, the reserve requirement has changed, which is awesome. And this goes in line with when the price goes up, this requirement can go lower as well. So in other words, every address needed to be funded with 20 XRP, which could not be moved once it arrived. So we can talk about deletable accounts. Again, this was actually first introduced by Nick Bougalis. So thank you, sir, back in February of 2019. You can see it's been enabled, and we can kind of read more about this. So again, this is on XRParcade.com. Highly recommend you check this out. I know I've gone over this on the xrpl.org website. You guys can, learn more about this as well. But some people say that, a high reserve requirement was good because, it arguably reduces the supply, especially in terms of circulation. But at the end of the day, 20 XRP per account, I'm not really, too concerned with that. I'm more concerned with being able to get my XRP. So depending on how you want to look at it, this can be a good or bad thing. I want to hear your thoughts below. If you're happy about this, if you're disappointed, again, we can always, vote and kind of change this as well. But it does require 80%, and it is, only really based off of the UNL validators. All right, next up, King Solomon sharing news again with TCS. This is Tata Consultancy Service, guys. They're a massive behemoth based out of India, I believe, a multi-conglomerate type of industry that works with, again, they have this product called the Quartz Gateway. This is Ripple enabled for banks, and it is cloud related. I know that they've worked with R3. We're going to kind of go in depth and detail and show why this is just another connection again. And this is not just for, millions. We're talking billions of dollars in transactions. So right here, TCS Banks plus the Quartz Gateway equals RippleNet. So we're going to look at the sources briefly. And again, King Solomon provided screenshots, and he's covered Tata, for the past, maybe a year or two, in great detail as well. So again, TCS Banks, cloud plug and play. We're going to look at the source as well. Quartz cross-border remittances. Again, XRP's specific use case. Solution enables banks and payment systems to connect to the newer DLT, distributed ledger tech-based payment infrastructures like RippleNet for processing of cross-border FX remittance transactions. I don't really know any other, DLT-based payment infrastructures that utilize a crypto asset specifically for remittance. All right. So I don't really know any competitor that's serving to get rid of the pre-funded accounts besides XRP, right? So whether they use Ripple or R3, I'm convinced that there's going to be a plan to utilize it in the future. Quartz Gateway seamlessly connects to the TCS Bank's payment system to the blockchain-based payments platform using APIs. Supports, again, related FX quote finalization, all kinds of benefits. All right. We can see here, Quartz Settlement facilitates DVP, delivery versus payment, settlements of tokenized assets held on the ledger. All right. And then as real-time final, irrevocable settlement of these assets on the Quartz blockchain ledger. And then just as I've talked about, again, by setting up private permission blockchain ecosystems, which allow market participants to operate as nodes. Okay, so permission blockchains are going to still interoperate with the permissionless blockchains, and then also they're also both permissioned and permissionless blockchains are going to be communicating to actual networks, whether it's mobile money, bank, money, online wallets, etc. Okay, so now let's kind of take a quick peek and we'll move on to the next topic. So right here, the link that was provided by King Solomon showing that Continental Bank taps TCS to foray into digital banking space. We're getting more news about this, on a daily basis. Again, TCS Bank, cloud solution to create new products and expand its footprint into larger banking and fintech ecosystem. FDIC insured, commercial lender. Reminds me, even whenever I see lending, it reminds me of R3 with their syndicated lending. And they already have one of the biggest networks, in the world in terms of, creating these types of syndicated loans. Talks about 100 million transactions per month, 200 customers, massive group here. And of course, 24/7 digital access. We're talking about these open source types of ledgers, specifically XRP. You can even, say with Bitcoin with its blockchain. Guys, this is a marketplace for 24/7 access. And now that these markets have tanked and gone up, they're showing the resiliency. They're showing that the liquidity is there, even when it is low. So there's going to be a bunch of products, services that are built upon these type of decentralized networks. All right, you can kind of read more about Continental Bank, but this is just one of many examples that is on its way. And now I want to kind of show you again. So Tata just showing services adopts Ripple Tech. We can see they're part of Tata Group, an Indian multinational conglomerate holding company headquartered in India. Their clients include Citibank, UK, GE, Microsoft, amongst others. Remember, they are also connected with Amazon Web Services, AWS. And then in another report titled Quartz Cross-Border Remittances, TCS specifically said, quote, the Quartz Cross-Border Remittance Solution enables payment systems, again, saying RippleNet specifically, just like King Solomon already shared in a screenshot before. We can see all of this, existing core systems, operational at banks and other payment institutions, connecting to the blockchain. Now, as we can see here, look, R3 again, another solution. I've shown this, site many times in this channel, but I just want to kind of rehash it since we're talking about Tata. So back in March, TCS announced Quartz, again, RippleNet enabled, will utilize Microsoft's Azure blockchain. Excuse me, Azure, not AWS. And R3's Corda Enterprise blockchain platform, their global banking platform. TCS Banks processes more than 1 billion accounts. Safe to say that if each account has, at least $1, that's, $1 billion in transactions. Again, if they have $1,000 each, that's, 1 trillion right there. Now, notice this: deployed at more than 450 installations worldwide, it is the largest collection of components, enterprise, and consumer apps for the financial industry made available through the cloud. Again, becoming more agile, intelligent by leveraging the power of new and extended ecosystems. Now, obviously, I'm bullish for the XRP ecosystem. We know R3, of course, they had the lawsuit with Ripple. Why would R3 want to sue Ripple for that 5 billion XRP that they were promised if they had no intention to utilize XRP in the future? Of course, it's one of the only, digital assets named to settle via Corda for settlement. It's, in my opinion, based off the funding, you can see the backing of R3, even with Goldman Sachs. You can see, former Goldman Sachs executives and who's on the board of directors at Ripple. Who even has executive roles at Ripple now. It's so fun to go back and forth on LinkedIn and just seeing who's who. All right, another good point. Anders Lundberg, guys, X_Neo, he was just kind of, making a point on Twitter, and he said, "It seems to me more and more that the main long-term focus for entities to hold large amounts of XRP and for different financial instruments being collateralized by XRP. Mention of digital world reserve currency, digital gold, and XRP as collateral supports this." And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. All right, let's keep going. This is really interesting here. So again, June 2017, this is David Schwartz, CTO of Ripple. "We do not target the biggest corridors," again, those kind of payment pairs, "like USD to Euro because they're already highly efficient." And so that's kind of the point they make. Again, Ripple is low value, high volume. They're basically targeting exotic corridors so that they can have direct pairs. They're, today, they're not very liquid. The spreads are relatively far apart, making it very expensive for everyday people and even institutions to transact directly. Enter, a bridge asset XRP. Create the liquidity, makes it highly liquid. And again, you don't really have to be too liquid to even improve the efficiencies of these corridors with the current correspondent banking network. Now, the challenge is if they want to, replace or at least be a part of the USD Euro, one of the most highly liquid corridors that's already highly efficient, they're going to really have to scale up and get the other corridors that are inefficient to be efficient first, kind of as, walking up a stairs, I should say, walking upstairs and becoming kind of the next stepping stone. Now, it's really interesting, though. They're building on the USD Euro corridors. All right, they're even working with the Australian dollar USD corridor, which is like the fourth largest or most liquid corridor to date. So there seems to be a greater plan, and it almost goes in line with, them really targeting the derivatives market long term. So we're going to see a few screenshots here, and then we're going to go back to what the Federal Reserve has said as well. So again, all sources here. And again, this is David Schwartz. "We don't target the biggest corridors like USD Euro because they're efficient. We target an inefficient but fairly high volume corridor. For example, the Euro and the Indian Rupee. Market makers have very small profit margins. So even a small incentive to place good Euro to XRP and XRP to Indian Rupee offers can beat what banks are getting now through the correspondent banking system." Next up, we can see Ripple Insights, a new production on-demand liquidity corridor for Euro USD. Very, very interesting. And again, expanding corridors to, the Asian Pacific region, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Latin America. Progress for 2020, aka they do call 2020 the year of the digital asset. You can see here most traded currency pairs. We can see Euro USD, the most liquid payment corridor. You can see Australian dollar. This is like the fourth because we can see first, second, third, fourth. So again, yen, British pound sterling. It's just simply right in front of us. All right. And then right here, USD last 24 hours, volume per corridor. We can see Australian USD is coming. It's really, really interesting. Again, we see other exotic corridors, the Philippine peso, the Mexican peso, Korean won, kind of going up gradually. But why are we targeting the bigger corridors as well? All right, now I want to show you this. So again, Anders Lundberg and then XRP_Stewart, a dollar to euro encrypted foreign exchange network. Is he saying, and again, this is David Mills of the Federal Reserve back in 2015, is he saying that the Euro USD corridor or fiber is its main function? Am I reading this right? Let's take a peek. Thursday, April 23rd, 2015, the Bretton Woods Committee and the Institute for International Economic Policy. Now, I believe XRP_Stewart or someone else has shared the video. We played it on this channel of David Mills saying this actually verbatim. And, David Mills, if you guys want to read it, feel free to pause it here. I'm not going to read it right now. But basically, he pointed to Ripple, again, the company, and referring to Ripple and XRP interchangeably like back in the day, a dollar to euro encrypted foreign exchange network as a positive example, but argued that more research is needed before considering government integration. Well, good news. It's been 5 years. There's 55 plus ledgers successfully closed without a single error. We're connected to essentially every bank in the world. Now, granted, XRP is not being used to that scale yet, and it almost seems like rather than the 80-20 rule, they may just be waiting for 100% market dominance and then flip the switch. And again, that is just one of my many opinions, not financial advice. All right. Now, to finish things, well, actually, let me see here. Let me go back really quick because I know that Anders Lundberg had some good points down here. So, yep, right here. Nothing to see here, I guess, as usual. So we can see, of course, ODL volumes increasing, a new production contract or corridor from Euro to USD that we showed. We keep scrolling down. Even a real XRP boy making a good point again, talking about, the bridge asset. Now we can see here, even, Ripple protocol, Euro gateway. We have, the market makers, USD gateway, Japanese yen gateway. Again, these are highly efficient already. Okay, and of course, Korean won. Just wanted to share that. And then right here, a bridge currency for liquidity, similar to even Earthport's diagram that I showed you guys recently in that previous video. Again, another RippleNet partner acquired by Visa. We can see XRP at the center, just that basket for currencies. Now, I want to tie this in 1 minute and kind of answer a few questions. And then even right here, Anders Lundberg again. Euro USD is already alive. He's surprised doesn't fit in with the target of exotic corridor since it's the most liquid corridor in the world. Australian dollar, US dollar is the fourth most liquid corridor, and that has the second highest odal volume. Interesting. All right. Now, here's what I wanted to address. Thought this was a great question here on Twitter. So again, Aaron, we got Ministry of Crypto and then Sig4Life answering some of his questions here. Question: if an institutional buys or holds from an exchange, say 10 million XRP, and the price is now $100 or, eventually hits $100 per XRP, what's to stop this institution from selling the lot, making a huge profit, and then use on-demand liquidity for payments instead? All right, so this is a great question, and there's many ways to answer this. One way that just kind of comes to mind is, okay, we have to understand the value that XRP is solving here. The long-term benefits of holding a universal bridge asset to address the issues that they need to solve for customers, in my opinion, outweigh any short-term profits. Okay, so they make maybe, $10 million, $100 million, even $1 billion profit one time, but they do not have that XRP any longer. And they still don't have another solution to replace what XRP does as that multi-currency bridge asset. And just so you know, if XRP did ever hit $100, you can bet that it's going to be highly liquid at that point of time. So essentially, I don't really think it's going to tank price once it's higher price, of course, it's going to become, exceptionally less volatile. So what's going to happen though is they don't have another solution to replace XRP. So they're going to end up buying XRP again. This is a global, multi-trillion-dollar problem. What about the billions in fees that they face? What about, them having to stay competitive with their competition and the competition's new competitive offers? Because they're leveraging XRP, they no longer have these pre-funded accounts globally. They're actually solving the settlement issue, not just messaging. What about the trillions of dollars of dormant capital in these pre-funded Nostra Vostra accounts? If they sell all of their XRP or even just a good portion, they have to keep, their costly pre-funded accounts globally. All right. They need enough XRP to be able to replace those accounts or at least reduce the amount of capital that is pre-funded. If they sell their XRP on the market, their competition that holds and uses XRP in payment flows can now outwork them and make them quickly become obsolete and potentially, get better rates and take some of their customers as well. And they understand that once this asset begins appreciating, I'm talking about XRP's appreciation from high value transfers and high volume moving over the ledger, which drives the price up. Once this is being used in payment flows in every corridor, even transacting as a bridge asset into other asset classes in markets as a whole, and don't get me started on newer use cases each and every year that we're seeing. Would you really sell this asset for short-term profit? If an institution bought up in, the open market, not over the counter, say 10 million XRP, and it rose the price substantially, they would not sell at the price or they would not sell at that exact price that they rose it to artificially, because if they bought millions right now and the price rose to say $10 per XRP, the slippage that they experienced, that the buyer went through to get that price that high, would cost them so much money. Specifically, they're not going to be able to artificially move the price up, the same buyer, and then sell it, because the slippage costs are just too much. And essentially, they've almost paid $10 per XRP to get it there. Hence, why a highly liquid asset with a steady rise would be better to ensure tighter spreads to mitigate the slippage of market buy orders. There's, a lot of ways to look at this. It's just my belief. They're not after the short-term profit and then using on-demand liquidity. They are looking at having, a multi-currency basket that can be utilized not only for remittance, but can be used in any market. All right. It is not just XRP as the native digital asset. It is the technology of the XRP ledger itself. Highly, highly recommended. I think that we are, just in the beginning of this space. I think there's so much more to come. And I just kind of hopefully, covered a few points. Hopefully I didn't leave you guys with more questions. If I did, contact me on Twitter, of course. I appreciate it. And I feel like I still did a 20-minute video, and sorry about that. I'm trying to clear my throat because I just chugged a cold brew. But again, guys, appreciate you as always. Shout out to all of my top channel supporters, Jamie XRP, Mikey, Crypto Beginner, Philip, Miles, Ken Melendez, and all other top channel members. Appreciate all of you that hit the like button, share this video around, and until the next video.